Hey guys, it's Kevin, your visa guy here in the Philippines. In today's video, we will be talking about the visas for former Filipinos. Now you might be wondering, does a Filipino actually need a visa when they enter into the Philippines, even though it's their home country? Well, actually, yes. The moment they are naturalized in a foreign country, that will be the time that they must follow the rules of being a foreigner in the Philippines. So that means when they enter the Philippines, they will be considered as foreigners and can only stay here for a maximum of 3 years just by doing visa extensions. I've had many clients in the past who inquired about this situation. So the typical scenario is a Filipino born in the Philippines, they move out to a different country for, let's say, opportunity reasons. And they get naturalized there, they will get their salary there, they will get their pension, and they will get all the government benefits in that foreign country. Now it's the time for them to live and retire. So they emailed me about, hey Kervin, I'm in my retirement age and I want to live and retire in the Philippines, but I do not want to be a dual citizen because I will lose my benefits in this current country that I'm a citizen of. So that is the dilemma that they have right now. They don't actually need to be a dual citizen. They just want to stay here permanently. But because they must follow the rules of being a foreigner, they are limited only to 3 years. And they don't want to have like a visa run once every 3 years. They are now in their retirement stage. So I told them, yes, there are actually two options that you can do. It's either the 13G or the SRRV. And those visas is what we will be talking about in this video. So stick around, grab a cup of coffee. Let's get down to business. All right, the first option, the 13G visa. Now let's make it very simple. Let's talk about the process, the requirements, and the cost. Okay, the first part, the processing. So this is somewhat similar to the 13A spousal visa. So basically, you arrive here as a tourist or under a balikbayan visa privilege, and then you will go to the Bureau of Immigration and request a checklist of requirements. So you follow all those requirements, and once you're done, you need to go to the BI and file for the application. And once your application has been accepted, you will then be asked to proceed for the biometrics and data capturing. So that will be the fingerprints part, and that's for your ACRI card. And from the date of filing, it will take around 2 to 3 months to get an approval. And once you get an approval, it's not yet the end of the line. You still need to do some things. Once that your visa application has been approved, you will then submit your foreign passport to the Bureau of Immigration for the implementation. So basically, it's a stamping of the approved visa in your passport. So it'll be a stamp on a certain page in your passport. So once that is done, if you're lucky, because the implementation process, like submitting your passport for the stamp, it might actually take 2 to 3 weeks. And if you're lucky, once you get your passport, you will also get your ACRI card. Once you have that card, it will be valid for 5 years. The visa is permanent. The ACRI card, however, is only valid for 5 years. So once you have the 13G visa, you must do an annual report, which you can now do it online, during the first 60 days of the calendar year, and it will cost you around 300 pesos annually. That's number one. Number two is you need to renew your ACRI card once every 5 years, and that will cost you around 5,000 to 6,000 peso every 5 years. And number three, you need to pay for an ECC-B every time you exit the country. So it's basically an exit clearance, but for immigrant visa holders. And it might cost you around 2,000 peso per departure. So those three things: annual report, renew your card, and then pay for the exit clearance every time you exit the country. But the question is, how much does it cost to get the 13G visa? So this might actually cost you just around probably less than 15,000 peso for everything, including the visa fee. So that includes like the small things like photocopies, 2x2 pictures, and that already includes the immigration fees for the 13G. But obviously, if you'll ask an agency or a law firm to assist you in the application, it might be double or triple or even quadruple, depending on their professional fee. But if you do it alone, it will just cost you less than 15,000 peso. The thing about this 13G visa is that there's no probationary residency. There's no probationary stage. Unlike the 13A spousal visa, before you will get a permanent visa status, you will have first to undergo a probationary stage. And for the 13A, it's 1 year. So they will need to reapply again for them to amend their status for probationary to permanent. But if you will apply for the 13G visa, from a tourist or balikbayan privilege, visa-free entry for 1 year, you can actually get a permanent visa directly from tourist to permanent residency visa. That is it. There's no probationary residency. Now, this is one of the advantages of if you will just apply for the 13G instead of staying as a tourist. On top of those would be your old Philippine passport, your birth certificate here in the Philippines, which must be a PSA, and application forms, letter request addressed to the commissioner, and all those other stuff. So if you want to learn more about the complete requirements, just visit the Bureau of Immigration website or simply go to the immigration office in your area. So again, the 13G visa is one of those options for those former Filipinos that wants to stay here permanently but do not want to get dual citizenship. Talk about the second option, which is the SRRV Courtesy category. Now, the PRA, which is the Philippine Retirement Authority, is actually offering different categories as well, which is the classic and then the expanded courtesy. Now, those categories would be for those foreigners who wants to live and retire here in the Philippines. Now, this specific category that we're talking about is the SRRV Courtesy category, would be for those former Philippine citizens that are naturalized in a foreign country. The SRV is actually filed at the Philippine Retirement Authority, which is under the Department of Tourism, whereas the 13G is actually filed at the Bureau of Immigration, which is under the Department of Justice. So meaning, when you apply for the SRV, you will only deal with the PRA all throughout your application. Even once you have your SRV, you will only be dealing with the PRA. And one of the advantages of having the SRV is that you are exempt to most of the Bureau of Immigration requirements, such as the annual report, ACRI card, and the exit clearance. So you don't need to pay every time you exit the country. And your only obligation once you have the SRV, you just need to renew your SRV ID once a year. And you can even do it outside the Philippines. If for whatever reason that you're outside the country and your ID is expired, you can actually renew it online. So you just need to contact the PRA, pay the fees, and ask them to ship the ID to your place. Well, obviously, shipping charges will incur. Now, to make it very simple, let's talk about the three things: processing, the requirements, and then the cost. Now, the processing, it's very simple. You just need to get all the requirements in place. You go to any of the PRA offices in the Philippines. They have 5. So you go to either any of those offices and then you submit your application. And once done, you just need to wait for 1 to 2 months. And after that, the PRA will contact you for the oath taking. So it is basically the formal acceptance of your SRRV. So they will return your everything, including your passport, the paper, some of the paperwork that you have submitted. So at that point, you are now an SRRV holder of the Philippines. Again, you'll be exempt to most of the immigration requirements. And that is how simple the process is in applying for the SRRV. You complete the requirements, you submit your paperwork, you wait, and then you get the visa. That is it. There's no implementation. There's no waiting for the passport to be available after the implementation. There's no ACRI card. None of that. Submit your passport. Also, there's also an interview by the time you submit your passport. And it's very quick. It's very easy. And after the interview, you will just need to wait 1 to 2 months. And then 1 to 2 months, it's time for the oath taking. That is it. Okay, let's talk about number 2, the list of requirements. And it is somewhat similar in applying for the 13G. However, the PRA does not actually need your naturalization certificate in your foreign country. Instead, they will just require you to submit your proof of Filipino citizenship. So that would be your old Philippine passport or your PSA birth certificate. The rest of the requirements are very, very easy to get, like filling out the PRA application form, getting the medical check done, getting some 2x2 pictures, what else? Like NBI clearance and a police background check from your home country. And also, if you will apply for the SRRV Courtesy, you don't actually need to have a pension. Again, you just need to show proof of Philippine citizenship and then you will be qualified for that specific category. All right, number 3, let's talk about the cost of acquiring the SRRV Courtesy visa. Now, the SRRV Courtesy is actually much more expensive upfront compared to the 13G because the SRRV Courtesy has 2 monetary requirements. Let's talk about the first one, which is the visa deposit. Unlike all SRRV categories, well, except for the expanded courtesy, and then the courtesy category only requires a deposit of 1,500 USD, and that will be in the bank for as long as you hold the visa. Now, that is the first monetary requirement. The second one would be the application fee and then the annual fee. Now, when you apply for the SRRV courtesy category, you only need to pay upfront for the application fee, which is 1,400 USD. You will only have to pay for the annual fee a year after you obtain the SRRV. So basically, the upfront cost in applying for the SRRV would just be the application fee of 1,400 plus the deposit of 1,500. Now, if you compare the cost, the 13G is much cheaper. But over time, the SRRV Courtesy will actually be much more cheaper because the annual fee is only $10 a year. So again, application fee 1,400, the annual fee is $10. And once you have the SRV, your only obligation is just to renew your ID, which will cost you $10 per year. So if you sum it up, it's going to be very, very cheap annually. And there's no fee every time you exit the country. However, it's just that it's much more expensive upfront because you need to pay for the application fee, which is 1,400 or 1,400, and then the deposit of 1,500. So if you compare it long term, the SRRV Courtesy is much more cheaper, but upfront is much more expensive. Also, the visa deposit of 1,500 or 1,500 must be done through an inward remittance, meaning it should be a wire transfer from your home country going to the Philippines. Even though the amount is small, you cannot pay that in cash. As per the PRA's requirement, the visa deposit must be done through an inward remittance. Now, the application fee and the annual fee, both of those, you can actually pay them in cash. You can pay them in dollars, USD, or you can pay them in Philippine peso money. So if you sum it up, each visa has its own pros and cons. So in terms of cost, the SRRV is much more expensive upfront because of the one-time application fee and the visa deposit. But over time, it's going to be much more cheaper because you are exempted to most of the Bureau of Immigration requirements, such as the annual report, the ACRI card, and then the exit clearance. The 13G, however, is much more cheaper upfront. However, you just need to pay for the ACRI card once every 5 years, the annual report, and every time you exit the country, you need to pay for the exit clearance. But when you apply, it's very cheap. It's less than 15,000. But anyway, it's still the decision of the applicant at the end of the day. So if you're a former Filipino citizen and I'm going to ask you, which route will you be taking? Should you go with the 13G or should you go with the SRRV Courtesy category? Well, let me know in the comments. Anyway, guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have questions about visas, let me know in the comments. Or if you have more detailed inquiries, just send me an email at vin.philippines@gmail.com. If you're considering to move to the Philippines in the future, I actually offer a relocation plan. so we can go over immigration and housing, the two most important aspects that you should know when moving to the Philippines. Just send me an email at vin.philippines@gmail.com. Anyway, again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the support and to the people who have been sending donations to the channel. I'm extremely grateful. So, what do you guys think about this video? If you are a former Philippine citizen, should you go with the 13G or the SRRV Courtesy? Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great day, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on my next video. Peace.